All right, Navarro, are you a good player? No.
Oh, close. Oh, yes! Yes!
Okay, I take it back. I spoke too soon.
Nivara MVP.
Navarro, this is the greatest player I've ever seen.
So we're going to be looking at a Route 66 game, and it looks like you've got a 3-stack of what is
names.
this? It's novelty accounts. We've got some
so
novelty
cute.
accounts on the other side. Outdated.
Yeah. Quite interesting.
All right.
We do have. Oh, sorry. We do have a 3-stack here. So, we have a duo tank, and then we also have me on support.
Oh, okay. So
like so cute.
Nivara
I want to puke a little bit in my mouth.
Nivara was also in your stack, so there was 3 of you playing for this.
Yes, Navarro was inside of the trio. He was actually supposed to be here, but unfortunately wasn't able to make it at the last minute.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, we'll definitely see if we can get them some tips as well. So when you're playing 3-stack, is it normally kind of 2 tanks and a support, or from what you're telling me, Mad Scientist and TLC, both of you are pretty flexible players. So yeah, how kind of representative is this of how you normally play in a stack?
We're pretty flexible, pretty much. Like, we usually actually play with a 5-stack, so all of us kind of flex to whatever. Usually, there's someone who usually plays support, and then I usually flex onto either role. Navarra usually flexes onto either role. Mad Scientist flexes onto either role, and the last person flexes onto either role. So there's usually one guy who's
Awesome.
like consistently on support. But everyone else kind of does everything.
And so is there something specific that you're wanting us to focus on with today's session? Like, do you have a goal in mind? Or in absence of a specific goal, do you have like a goal in mind for, when playing as a group? Are you trying to like rank up? Are you primarily playing to have fun or be social?
We've been playing, I think, for 3 years now. We started on PS4 together, so it started as like a social thing, obviously, because that's kind of just, we've all been really good friends since then, so it's really kind of been like our social thing together. But I think obviously improving and like helping us rank up, I think it'd be really fun for us, like trying to get toward a goal. But obviously, like, it's something that we just do for fun. Like, it's just something we love to do together, and like playing
awesome.
Yeah.
Imagine playing video games for fun. Can't relate.
I have not felt that in years.
Well, keep it up. I am jealous, but yeah. So we'll definitely focus on kind of just some not too like hardcore theory or anything like that. And what SR is this at? Sorry.
Myself and the other tank, we were plat inside of this game. TLC was, I think, silver, right?
Yeah, we're actually, I think, almost 1,000 SR difference.
Oh, wow.
You guys are,
Okay.
you guys are, I think, are closer to, well, actually, Matt, are you still around 2,800?
No, not on tank, but I am on like support. So like whenever you play tank, it's still like that almost 1,000 difference.
Yeah,
it's
and then
kinda
I think Navarra is around 2,800, 2,900. So it's kind of, we're all over the map.
Yeah, we get some interesting games.
Yeah, there's always going to be like those games always add a huge variety, right? Especially if the opponent is playing. I mean, like one of the real downsides about playing as a group in the like competitive mode is that you're going to run into Smurf stacks, boosting stacks, like cheaters just a lot more often. Where I at least in my personal experience, like stacking and ranked actually makes the experience actively worse. Even if it's like it's this trade-off between like you get to play with friends, right? But it's actually a tool for other people to do. It's like if people want to, especially boosting accounts, right? It's more economical for boosters to boost in stacks.
Do it in groups.
Just do it in groups. So it's like especially where like a Grandmaster Smurf Knight is going to have more of a massive impact in kind of plat and diamond games like that. But yeah, as long as you can kind of keep to the enjoyment side. But yeah, so let's I am very curious to see if the opponent is just novelty accounts. What ranks are they? I mean, 2 stars, 3 stars, and 5 stars. So maybe not Smurfs or boosters. Could just be novelty accounts, which would be pretty cool. Especially since Outhealed is playing main tank. So
that's cute.
So hopefully we get some people who are just novelty accounts, not anything nefarious going on here.
Try to keep yourself in one piece. I don't mind an easy ride.
I love this high ground take to start with.
Always good.
Always really good.
Clear off anyone who was there, but it wasn't really.
Ooh, yeah, that was a lot of damage, but good drop. Genji hard committed.
That was a good bubble from her instant to try and cut you off. Are you guys communicating your bubbles before you start walking in with them, or does it just kind of be like, oh, I have bubble, go now?
No, the bubble management is communicated.
Cool. Just like a 3, 2, 1, let's go. That thing is really good.
Yeah, like you can swing in like 3, and then it comes and stuff like that.
Cool. That wasn't me trying to like blast you. I was genuinely like curious.
So one of the things I'm just because there's 3 people to review, I'm gonna be like a little bit more pedantic about each kind of engagement. But especially on Reinhardt, there's a lot of like min-maxing to do on Reinhardt, which I really enjoy. So like with this hammer swing, right, is that that one actually does hit a bubble. And anytime you have the advantage, unless you're trying to actually burst through a bubble, you don't want to hit it with the hammer. And when you're doing 85 damage per swing, 2 of them is going to do 170 damage, but the bubble is still going to be able to tank 2. And the 3 hammer swings from Reinhardt is going to be taking too long. So like swinging against a Zarya, unless there's some other high damage source, isn't going to do much. So like try and swing. And also just a general idea for Reinhardt is that a lot of Reinhardt's optimization around his swing comes from either extending or shortening his hammer swing, where if you look to the left of a target, your first swing is going to hit earlier. And if you look to the right of a target, your swing is going to land later. So if you start the swing, one of the things that you can do is you can be looking to her right so that the hammer will land as late as possible, so that the Zarya, if she bubbles it reactively to your hammer swing, you can cancel your swing with a shield to not give her energy and to hopefully waste her bubble. So that's kind of like the first thing, is that, you've got to be waiting for this personal bubble, because if she tries to reactively bubble your hammer swing in the same way that you would reactively bubble a Pharaoh rocket or something like that, it's going to give her a massive advantage. And just little advantages like this, especially in frontline fights, are going to snowball and compound over time, right? Think about the difference between, you dealing damage versus her taking no damage plus getting like 40 energy, right? That kind of thing, especially Zarya, when she gets to high energy, she's an absolute menace to deal with, where the little things, if you can keep her at 0 energy, like if she fucks up both bubbles early in the fight, she's useless, and you can just literally run her over. So it's super important with that. Same sort of thing with Genji, right? Swinging against him, he's not going to be able to reflect your hammer, but you can see you're hitting him. Reflect blocks melee and hammer, but it doesn't reflect the damage. So with Genji, if you're going to be doing the same thing, you want to be either starting to swing as soon as he cancels it, or starting to swing right as the sound animation is finishing off, because you're really threatening to him. But kind of like swinging, if you swing and hit him, then after that he's going to have some time to cancel and do some stuff before the next hammer kind of affects him. So yeah, there's those kind of 2 things. Yeah. And then probably the last one that I'll add on just before we look at a different character is that for your fire strikes, especially if you're going to be going for hammer swings, it's going to be really, really good to cancel your fire strike, cancel a hammer swing with a fire strike, just to get a big burst of damage, and it's going to be a lot more of a guaranteed hit. These mid-range fire strikes, especially against squishies or like smaller hitbox targets like Zarya, it's a lot more easily dodged. So if you're especially looking for more consistency with your fire strike doing damage, and just higher burst damage, you can kind of weave them in, because as soon as that hammer touches, you don't have to wait for the hammer swing to complete before fire strike. You can cancel a partially swung hammer swing with fire strike to get a big burst of damage. So those are kind of the first fight kind of tactical mechanic stuff that I'm seeing on Reinhardt. Gunther, did you have anything that you wanted to add just off of the first 30 seconds here?
No, that was incredibly in depth.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do the same thing, but let's take a look at this starting fight from Nivara's perspective. Oh, I'm on 5 seconds. Okay, let's jump back to here.
Oh, he started with a right click.
Look at this. Top 500 Zarya already.
Oh. Okay. My man is reloading after every single shot. I already see a few things that are like red flags, but I want to give it a little more.
Okay.
walks in front of you when he has bubble. Not quite as well. Okay, yeah. So it's... What I'm watching is I use bubble so the enemy will shoot me and give me energy. What should be happening is I'm being shot at, so I will use bubble. Like, I'm seeing like Mad Scientist, you get bubbled as you're not really taking any damage, and then you're like, oh shit, I've been bubbled. I need to go, absorb damage. Or Nivara is like, says, I'm gonna go use bubble and then walk out in front of my Rein. But because of how short bubble is, the damage needs to already be happening by the time like the bubble starts to come out. So Nivara already needs to be in front of you and then bubble themselves so they take that damage. Or you need to already be in and then get bubbled so you take that damage. Because if the reason that your Zarya is 50 charge right now and not 80 or 100 is because you guys are using bubble and then they're saying, I don't want to shoot that, and they're not shooting that. The most important part of bubble is like certain damage. You have already seen the projectile been thrown. That guy is already being shot at. They are already using this ultimate. Not, I'm going to do this and I hope they hit me. It's, I know they're going to hit me, so I'm going to do this.
And one of the reasons that this can like happen for Zarya players, or really like any hero that has something that they want to do. This can happen from Zarya is bubbling people, or it can happen with anything that kind of like is helping a teammate, whether it's like a nano boost or a defense matrix or something like that. Is that kind of you get it to the point where that person is needs that sort of assistance. And then if you're a little bit late on it, like if you're kind of like, I need to bubble this person, but then you're only able to get that bubble as they retreat, or you didn't notice in time, you can kind of like bubble as an afterthought, as almost like an apology. Like, I should have bubbled you. I'm sorry. Here it is a little bit late, just to know you that the thought was there.
Yeah.
This is also kind of it's one of the other sort of things that happens with, like Anna's, nading people. It's kind of like, I'm trying to heal you, I miss you, so we make up for it with the nade, right? It's like, if you do miss the opportunity to use the bubble, like, if the bubble is not actually being used to kind of either prevent an elimination or in some way assist in securing elimination, like if it's just you being used after the person has already retreated and is in no threat of dying, bubble is a long cooldown. Personal bubbles 10, projected bubbles 8. You are going to find another better opportunity for it in a couple seconds. So don't fret about landing the perfect bubbles. If you miss one, or if somebody dies, it's like, yeah, fine. But there's always going to be opportunities to use good bubbles in a fight. So don't kind of waste one as an apology for not being kind of like Johnny on the spot or getting the perfect bubble. Just wait for the next purple bubble, or perfect bubble, as close to perfect as possible.
Man, I really hope Nivara watches this.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna go back and watch it again. Actually, we're gonna watch it with our 5 stack. So
love that.
I really do like the long range right clicks. These are fantastic, right? He's getting a lot of damage markets. I assume it's a he. Could be wrong. Yeah. But really, like, very, very good right clicks there, and like a little bit of. Oh, he's already up to 70. But just like if we had that first bubble on the Reinhardt be kind of like a perfect bubble, that's going to be one of the things that compounds his effectiveness throughout this fight. Like, there's so many right clicks that are hitting on like big grouped up targets, and you can see that this Ana has actually been forced to use this nade, and it might not be a very visual thing in the fight to kind of this, but these are kind of these are like the silent carry plays, right? Is that your right clicks are like putting a lot of pressure on there. It's getting a lot of ult charge. And the ways that you will kind of like indirectly or very quietly or subtly or stealthily carry is the fact that you're going to get grav earlier, and they're going to have to use their nade defensively just for healing. And that's going to save your Genji from getting antied, your Rein from getting antied or something like this. So this is the way that you kind of like are the silent hero of the game. And so the right clicks are really, really fantastic. There's some times like early on in this fight, like very early actually, quietly. It was actually before this. Let's go here, right? So the reload is not great, but then wait, did I? Yeah, he was actually left from there. Yeah, so like this is the situation. He's at like 2 bar, right? But he's gonna survive. He'll be fine even without that bubble. Oh my goodness, I just screenshotted something.
Yeah, and, like imagine if he had like this full charge for the right clicks that he's about to do, right?
Yeah.
Like.
So I did miss C. There was something else I was going to point out, but he actually did it correctly. So really good left click tracking on the Genji there. All right, so let's do the same thing, but with TLC this time. The first. I wonder how many hours we could spend on 40 seconds of gameplay. Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, man, Exo Boosts. Anytime you have the opportunity, I love being on this high ground. This high ground is fun. Especially if they're going to be doing anything like a Hanzo peeking out to try and shoot down here, a Kree or a Roadhog or something. Just anytime you can get these little high grounds is going to be really, really fantastic. It's going to make you a little bit safer. So even if it doesn't make a little, like, it doesn't make a lick of a difference at this point, but it's going to be a great habit. Anytime you can abuse exo boosts and get to the high ground, but being inside of it is going to give you, like, there's only one option, and the option is to stay where you are. So anytime you can have the option, like if you're on the high ground, it's not just that it's like slightly different, but it also gives you an escape that being in the train car does not provide. Like even if you were up here, that's fine because now you've got high ground, low ground, you can alternate. But anytime you're in a position like this, you are committed to this position to the point where like there is no cover until you're at the back or in the front. Whereas like you have cover at all points if you're on top of the rail car there.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest issues is for sure like using the exo boots because it's just not intuitive in my brain yet.
Yeah,
but...
it's one of those things where the first step is kind of like positioning yourself near this high ground or positioning on yourself on the high ground. Because like, I'm just going to very quickly show you something in the training range as well that I like to show every kind of Baptiste just to know that it's possible, right?
I'm interested in what this is now.
Can you take a guess? Exoboost Tech, starting high ground.
No, I might know what it is when you do it, but
all right. So
that's how a lot of stuff is that you talk about. It's like, oh yeah, I know this.
So if you're on the high ground, right? Like, I mean, when you're playing Baptiste in general, once you get higher, because there's a lot of things on Baptiste. He's a very, very complicated hero with a very high skill ceiling, right? Because you want to be doing like left click, right, left. Because if you're just like, holding down, you can be doing both at the same time, right? So there's a lot of min-maxing there to do as well. But when you're fighting as well, you kind of want to be adding in these crouches that if you ever get jumped, you can at least get a little bit of movement just to kind of reacquire your target and make your hitbox move around, make yourself harder to hit. So even when you are perfectly safe, in the same way that I think most players in Overwatch learn that standing still at any point is dangerous, right? So Overwatch players are always moving, right? But Baptiste needs to have like always moving and occasionally charging up because it charges really quickly. Just in case you get hit, you can at least be like, oh, evasive maneuvers sort of thing. But one of the really cool things about Exo Boots is if you are on the high ground, right? Is this if you fall off while having the Exo Boots charged, you can just bunny hop back up onto the high ground.
Yeah, it's like a trampoline.
Yeah, so you can use that in order to kind of like get away, or like if there's somebody like if there is threats on both the high ground and the lower ground, you can just do this in order to kind of keep mobile and just be. I messed it up that time, but you can just do that to be a generic asshole and really kind of slippery. So, and then even if you are kind of by default positioning around high grounds, then that's going to give you an escape where it's like. High ground or low ground, or, for example, a monkey jumps you on the high ground, right? You're like, oh shit, you jump off the high ground, and then if he chases you, right, you've kind of checkmated him. Because if he chases you to the low ground, you go back to the high ground. But if he doesn't chase you, you just stay there, because he's already used his cooldown, and unlike you, who can position between high ground and low ground as freely and as often as you want, because Exo Boosts aren't a cooldown, he can't freely go between high ground and low ground like you. So that's the way that you primarily stay alive. It's like your shift is 13-second cooldown, your lamp is 25-second. It's like if you use either of those things, the opponent's going to be looking for them. They're going to hunt you down. The main way that you sort of stay alive on BAP is positioning and mobility between those high grounds. So that's just the kind of couple things that I wanted to point out there.
Yeah, because in the game's code, it essentially still thinks that you're crouching even if you're in midair. So it gives you a little bit of time that when you hit the ground, you can immediately bounce back up. Because this game is really weird.
It is a bit strange, yeah.
It's like I'll talk about that another time. That's a long story, but
so
there's some weird tech.
This is good. Especially with the new Baptiste change, you want to be putting a lot more effort into trying to hit the targets, or else your healing has just been nerfed by 16% or
A
something
lot.
like that? A lot.
Yeah.
I was playing Baptiste yesterday, and I was like, holy shit, this makes a massive difference, right? So before on Bapt, you didn't really have to care about actually hitting the targets, but now, even if you like hit their feet or close to them, it's not even like an AoE drop-off. It's just like it has to be right on. So this is a
you
change.
gotta go for those turrets.
This is a change as of like Wednesday, but yeah, it's no longer sufficient on BAP to just get in their general vicinity. You do have to be trying to actually hit them direct on. Yeah, I'd be, it's like, so again, you want to be positioning yourself closer to high grounds. Like this high ground is going to be a little bit riskier. This position is going to be fantastic. It's just sort of like, it's one of those things where Gunther was talking about it, like alarm bells, right? It's like, if I'm positioned here on BAP, I just feel a little bit exposed.
Yeah.
I like that you're pushing all the way across. In the absence of being a high ground, you're pushing across because then you do have some, again, soft cover. I like that you're not kind of sticking out just in the middle of the point here.
Good job, team. Let's keep it going.
Is there any specific way that you think about using regenerative burst, TLC?
I have a really hard time just sometimes using my cooldown, so it's something that I try to use. Like, I don't try to use it, like, obviously when everyone's full health, but when everyone is taking some damage or I'm low, or I use it when I'm low. And does that make sense? Sorry,
Yeah.
I think I just completely...
Yeah, so you're saying that, like, sometimes it's, sometimes you forget to use cooldowns, so you've been trying to use them more often?
Yeah, and then I try not to use it if it's completely not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the big thing with Baptiste, right, is that Baptiste is by far the most powerful and most important character in the game right now. And it's really important that you stay alive. So a lot of the kind of like first skills that you have to get good at on Baptiste is sort of staying alive. And especially if you are playing something like a brawl comp or a rush comp or something like that, Baptiste's regenerative burst, if you are healing the people around you, and it's a pretty sizable radius. It's like 10 meters. And it's 10 meters in a circle. Well, technically a sphere. But that's a lot of healing, and it is also healing over time, right? They get that healing for 5 seconds. And if you hit everybody on your team with it, overall, it's something like 500 healing together over time, which is incredibly powerful. So, it's not going to be a cooldown that you use all of the time, for your team in terms of an AoE. Most of the times when you're using that regenerative burst for your team, it's either because you can't keep up with the healing, and somebody's getting bursted, or you know that your team is about to rush into all of them. Now, at your elo, it's unlikely that you're going to see like a proper rush or brawl camp. So the main two situations that I want you to use your regenerative burst for is like, first and foremost, it's like if you need it. Like, if somebody is attacking you, or your other support isn't nearby you, or there's no other heal stations near you, use it for yourself, right? But it's also quite a lot for yourself. So you heal yourself for 150 HP. So you don't want to use it if you just get like tickled, but if you get chunked, then yeah, use it for yourself. But ideally, health packs before you use it for yourself, or ask your second healer, or press X for to call for healing. Is if you have any other ways of getting that healing back, you want to prioritize using it in that way. Because if a Genji gets on you, or if you take a Helix rocket from the enemy soldier, or if you get dove by the Winston, if any of those situations happen, you want to be using the regenerative burst for yourself, right? Imagine how fucking broken Baptiste would be if instead of having 200 HP, he had 350 HP, right? And anytime you use the regenerative burst to heal up some just like generic chip damage, it makes you almost twice as easy a target to kill for people like Genji and people like Winston. So the really only time you're going to be using it for people other than yourself is if that person is going to die unless you use it, right? And that is going to be kind of like, if your Rein has exited armor and you want to like try and get him back into armor, or if somebody's about to die, then it's like, Gunther, is it, can you fire a right click at the same time your regenerative burst? Or
yes.
Yeah. So you don't even have to do the thing where it's like right click, regenerative burst, right click. You can just spam that shit, and just to give them that extra 75 HP over 5 seconds. But it's that's kind of like a desperation thing. So because really Guru's the support expert here. But you know, it's like the regenerative burst is going to give that person 75 HP, and it's going to give them 75 HP over 5 seconds, where it's like your right click, like a pill hitting them, is giving them 70 HP. So your right click is really, or sorry, not your right click, your shift, like your regenerative burst has the equivalent of healing of like 1 right click. So it's not like a ton of healing, and it's not like Ana where you're getting more healing for your right clicks. So you're really only wanting to use it to save single target if it's kind of like you do need the equivalent of 1 more right click to keep them alive. But otherwise, I would definitely, especially at this helo, be greedy, be selfish, save it for yourself, because Gunther has said it time and time again, right? Your effectiveness on support is 1-to-1 for the time that you stay alive. So you need to prioritize that even over, in a lot of situations, healing your team.
Yeah, so there's a concept that's kind of talked about called effective HP, which is essentially not just what's on your health bar, but the total health pool that you have access to as a hero, right? So Ana's effective HP is 300 because she has 200 health and then she has that 100 health nade. So essentially Ana has 300 health. So you need to try and eke as much value out as you can out of these cooldowns because it increases your effective health, not just your active current health.
Yeah. Which is another reason, like, health packs contribute to effective, right? So, I mean, theoretically, you could have a Baptiste that has, like, 600 effective HP if he's got regenerative burst and he's standing next to Mega, or has a retreat onto a Mega health pack. So,
yeah.
Fucking 600 HP Baptistes, by the way. Like, you know, those would not be fun to fight against.
God, it's horrifying. It's like that screenshot of Jonak with, like, 400 health.
Yeah. So... But yeah, it's that's going to be kind of like the main thing, right? Is that regenerative burst is worth its weight in gold. Does that make sense, TLC, or do you have any questions about that?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. Feel free to interrupt either of us if you have things that you want to ask questions or have stuff that you want us particularly to look at.
Oh, you guys were on red team, and I was like, why are you healing their Rein?
I hate that. I hate that you can't swap the colors like that in the replay viewer.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys go high ground.
Great mobility onto the high ground.
That's
I like
good.
this.
So, on Baptiste, like, the thing about, like, Reinhardt and Winston as main tanks, and this goes for pretty much any, like, support hero that you'd probably be playing in the situation, TLC. Rein and Winston are both pretty close range in terms of their immediate, like, body, right? Like, Winston can jump, but he's still got that close range Tesla cannon. Rein only has that close range hammer, and sure, he has fire strike, but that's not his main damage source. You should always try to be in a range that is outside of that zap or that hammer swing. If you are ever inside of that range for the enemy main tank, you are, like, in, like, no hyperbole, like, you are making a massive mistake in that moment. You need to be playing outside of that range because that's damage you don't need to be taking. Just objectively, there's no reason that you should be that close to take that damage in 99.99999% of scenarios. So just try to be really cognizant of where the enemy main tank is positioned and play just, like, 4 to 5 feet outside of that range if that's where you got to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
I might have lamped my Genji there.
I might have as well.
I don't say I would have because it's like, kind of won that fight. I might have done it to be safe. Everybody very patiently waits for the door to open.
Good job, team. Let's keep it going.
So I kind of talked about this last time, or not last time, but in the last VOD that was on stream. In this comp, Baptiste and McCree, or in any comp with Baptiste and McCree, you guys are best friends. You want to stick together as much as you can, right? You play the same effective ranges, you can protect each other very, very well. So you want to stick together. Also, if you just square the two of you, you can probably win a fight off of that. Oh, I want to look at that lamp, actually, if we can pause for the moment before...
Yep, for sure.
They're at.
Actually, I think if I would have done that lamp, I would have done it a little more to the left.
Yeah, around the corner, right?
Yeah.
So here's a word of advice that I'm going to give you for good lamp placement. Wherever a fight is happening, I want you to have a little, like, pretend lamp in your head wherever you think that perfect lamp would be. So if you guys are taking this fight here, before you even need to throw out the lamp, I want you to look at the area and be like, where would be the best lamp that I could throw if people were in danger? So instead of having to be like, oh shit, people are low, where do I throw this thing? You already know where you're going to be throwing it. It's it just like try and have like a phantom lamp there that you want to fill in that blank. You know, round peg goes into round hole, square peg into square hole, lamp shaped peg into lamp shaped hole. Just try to have like one of those for you wherever the fight is happening. Like right here, my invisible lamp is at this doorway. Okay, we're going into this next area. My invisible lamp is at this corner with these boxes. Like, just try to always have one of those running in your head, because then you don't have to react. You just throw it. Yeah, if you push up, it's at that next corner. Like, you don't have to react. You just know where you're putting it already, and you put it there.
Good luck to that guy.
Oh, did she wake him up? Oh my goodness. Atlas.
Very nice.
I think that's a good lamp because there's no real good place to put that one, right? There's nowhere that you can really say, oh, this is the perfect lamp spot. Your round is low, so you threw it at him. Sometimes you got to throw those kind of lamps. Sometimes you just got to go, whoop. Hope you don't die, buddy. Like, that's how it is.
So this is also going to be a situation. This happens to a lot of Ana players and Baptiste players, especially people who are kind of like, well, I suppose, new or not very confident in their own gameplay. Is that when you get into a situation like this, right, you're like right in the thick of things. But again, like you're the most valuable character as part of this team. You need to stay alive. And ideally, you put yourself in a position where you can just like tunnel vision on providing the maximum amount of resources possible, whether that's shooting people or healing people. If you have to put any like thinking power into staying alive and like repositioning or being evasive, that's going to be like in place of healing and damaging. So in this sort of situation, right, if you're able to kind of be confident playing a little bit farther away, like ideally you play this fight on this high ground, right? And you pushed in with your Reinhardt, and then you kind of like came back and things were chaotic because the primal was going on your Ana. But at your earliest convenience, like exo boosting onto this high ground and just like kind of leaving the fight, leaving the chaos of the fight. There's some heroes that are going to be thriving in chaos. You are not one of them. You want to kind of like point and laugh at the chaos from a safe and appropriate distance. So, you know, and one of the other things, right, is this is another thing where you can abuse a people's attention. Because this soldier, right, you might kind of like consider him a threat, but he can. This is the sort of situation where you're the only person who can proactively take or accept this duel, right? Is that if you're fighting this soldier and he shoots you, you can just back up and he can't fight you anymore. You might not be able to heal, but that's fine. But it's like he can't proactively from this position shoot you. There's nothing really he can do about it if you just kind of like back up and close off this angle using the corner of the high ground. So if that's fine, right, it's like you can continue just like if he tries to do something else and he stops looking at you, you can just like peek and fight him. Or, you know, if he's used his healing station, you can fight him with lamp, things of that variety. But yeah, this is going to give you a lot more options and make it a lot safer. Because sometimes, like maybe if you are taking the duel, right, you take the duel, shoot, and you're just getting some healing onto the ground. And another potential use of this high ground is if you do need to use your regenerative burst, for example, you can drop off the high ground just to this edge, use your regenerative burst, and then retreat back to the high ground. So there's going to be some situations where it's kind of like a little awkward. You're like, as Baptiste, since your regenerative burst is only like 10 meters, sometimes you like waddle forward, shift, waddle backwards. It's you know, if nobody has any reason to threaten you at all, sometimes that's the best thing that you can do in order to help your team. Do you have anything that you want to add there, Gunther?
No, I think that's good.
All right.
I do want to maybe I was about to say I want to look at the Rein for this next fight.
I want to see hammer.
I want to see him swing the hammer.
The hammer. The hammer. Damn, Nanoblade. All right, let's watch the Zarya instead then, since she'll have
to okay. He immediately dies. Yeah, makes sense. All right, if this grabs gets deflected, I'm gonna be hurt just a little bit inside.
Let's get the payload moving again, yeah?
Tries to do the speed boost and doesn't fully commit to it. You go big or go home.
Reloading
Pulse,
after individual right clicks.
I was gonna say, where's our Rein right now? Mad Scientist, where are you?
Oh shit.
You're going high ground.
I was trying to walk up to high
That-
ground.
that's
but
good.
It
Why-
was kind of like pointless. Like it is very mobile. and
That's
stuff.
not true. Even if the enemy team is really mobile, you want to push them out of the high ground. Like, even if the enemy team can get back up there, you at least want to go up there and force them down, and maybe let your Ana play up there or your Bat play up there. Make the people who want to play up there, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is just like you guys need to stick together here, because right now I think Navarra could get like his
Burned.
shit rocked.
Yeah.
Like, there's like 4 people looking at him. He could get cut off by a Winston bubble. This man is DED dead.
This is where a team could make the decision to just pop Navarro's bubble and murder them afterwards,
Yeah.
right? So Navarro might be like, yeah, I'll just bubble and then I'll have 2 seconds, right? Where the other person's like, if they bubble, we're just going to kill it in a quarter of a second and then murder the Zarya anyway. So let's see if that happens. In the open. Oh, no, they're going to get away. Yeah, like, again, I like your position more than I like Zarya's position. It might seem like you're not getting anything done, but I think that you had the right idea here. Or at least a good idea. Oh, there's the grab, too. All right, let's look at this from Zarya's perspective.
That pause was for bubble your Genji when he's splitting. Yeah. I don't know if that was self-explanatory.
Well, he had used it, I believe, at that moment on me because I was so low in purple.
Big.
Still think he should have hit.
Oh, goodness, you're using 4 ultimates here.
Oh, it is sometimes. Sometimes committing ults like this is okay. I'm not condoning this, but I think it's understandable, because it's like, you're going to have 4 minutes coming into this last time bake. You can try to rebuild that ult economy a little bit. Like, we'll see teams invest like 4 or 5 ults at the ends of like King's or second point, because if they lose that fight, the walk back is so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's optimal to be investing that many ults, but it's understandable, you know? See, that Genji was out already, and you bubbled. You bubbled him hoping he would take damage, you being Navarro, who will watch this spot back.
Personal bubble, ping pong it. Oh,
Yep,
oh,
now your
just
hands back
a
up.
little bit
Back and
below,
forth. Yeah, a little bit, but like you're back and forth. This is okay. Did we talk about what ping ponging was?
In this VOD? No, I don't think we have.
Do you guys know what ping ponging is?
As far as like Rein and Zarya just going back and forth in front and behind of each other.
Yeah, when your cooldowns, like with bubble cooldowns and everything, just
Yeah.
trying to split the damage evenly between you two.
You also do it as a little bit of a like a cooldown trade. So one of the cool things, like with Reinhardt's Fire Strike and Zarya's kind of projected bubble being around the same, if you're not going to time them perfectly or anything, right? But you have this kind of like alternation where you also want to ping pong, because if you all go in together, right? It's like you have your Fire Strike cooldown, your personal cooldown, and your projected bubble cooldown, where it's like you have like a big kind of concentration of power all in one, and then you have like 8 seconds ish where you can't really do anything, where it's like you can exert kind of like this constant pressure if you're staggering these cooldowns, because there really are kind of 2 versions of initial engagements, right? There is the hard engagement where basically everybody trades cooldowns, and it's like who used their cooldowns better, which cooldowns countered which, and then after that there is this period of like return to neutral. So it's like cooldowns neutral, and you return to that neutral if nobody got a specific advantage. But if the cooldowns were traded and one team ends up like antied and low on HP, then the enemy team will continue to press that advantage throughout the neutral, like not letting the opponent stabilize and wait for their cooldowns to return. Where ping-ponging is kind of like the alternate to that, where you are purposefully staggering the use of your cooldowns to continuously absorb and exert pressure, hoping that you're basically going to bleed their resources or absorb more resources over time, because you're never really giving the opponent a neutral to stabilize. So that's kind of like the main difference, because ping-ponging is like the alternative to stage, hard engage, stabilize. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, and you can do both versions. You can ping pong or you can hard engage on Rein Zarya. Give me a second here. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Yes, let's keep watching. This is a grab here. You didn't use any ultimates to start, so the fact that they used ultimates, that's happy days.
Yeah.
You got to grab out. You got to grab out early. Nothing to be sad about.
Yeah, and they didn't charge too many ults off of it.
Nope.
Which is good. Because grab is one of those ults that can help charge other ults, like Square or Bongo, right? Because you're just doing so much damage into it.
You use ultimates to charge the ultimates. Yeah, they already, like, they lost to Zarya here, so they should be really, really high pressure.
Yeah.
Be almost like no backing.
Yeah, just walk at them. Walk at them. They're nanoblading. Okay.
Unlucky.
All right, Nivara, are you a good player? No.
Oh, close. Oh, yes! Yes!
Okay, I take it back. I spoke too soon.
Nivara MVP.
Nivara, this is the greatest player I've ever seen.
So in this situation, right, one of the things that you could have done here is that, like, yes, they use Nanoblade, but again, like, if the opponent is going to be using these ultimates on defense, you want them to have to use their ultimates as quickly as possible so they get as little value out of them as possible. And the value doesn't come from getting kills or winning team fight, it comes from how much time do they get off of using those ultimates, right? So they used a Graviton to win a very quick fight, and they didn't get many ults, or didn't get, like, no other ults got charged off of it. And in this situation, they used Nanoblade, and they had to use it really quickly because their Zarya basically died, and they were fighting 5v6. They had to do it. I think that you are probably going to come out the winner in this fight anyway, but you could have done kind of like one of two things here. If you recognize that the Zarya was gone, you can just, again, like we were talking about, like ping pong versus hard engagement, you can just hard engage and then keep pressing, because no matter what, they have 5 people, you have 6, you're going to have more resources and it's going to be more concentrated, and you can just run them over. And this can kind of like make it difficult for them to find a way to Nanoblade, or maybe they'll do their Nanoblade a little bit more rushed or more scuffed, gives it a lower chance of that succeeding, even if it does succeed at all. So I would have liked to see kind of like the recognition that you had a very sizable advantage as soon as this Zarya died right here. Right, so this Zarya, she dies. At this point, you tape down your W key.
You are all gas, no brakes.
All gas, no brakes.
Sure, you should be.
Just like, at them, forward. Right? Even if your Genji's dead, he's going to be back before that Zarya is, so.
And I'd rather have a pick on their Zarya than, like, I don't really care if my Genji's dead. I care if my Zarya's dead.
Fuck Genji,
right?
Nobody cares. Zarya's OP. Zarya for life. Yeah.
It's like there's like an order of operations about things in Overwatch. Tanks need to play the game to allow the rest of your team to play the game. That's just how it works. So if their Zarya's dead, the rest of their team is allowed to play the game less. So go. Oh!
That was sketchy.
Yeah, word of advice, don't fire strike with like less than 350 health.
I mean, I wouldn't even fire strike if I'm inside of a window at 500 health.
Oh yeah, at all. But
windows are terrifying.
But that's a very specific situation.
Oh, well,
and
that was our window.
Ah, fucking red colors. Damn it.
Oh my god, yeah. Jesus Christ. All right, my bad. You know what? Never mind. Throw everything I said out the window. Except for that whole 350 health. I think that's a good rule.
Good fire strike. We're idiots.
Yeah. How consistently do you track enemy Rein shatter? And be honest about that.
I'd say that I'm very. I feel like I'm pretty on point with knowing that it's there, which is actually why I think at that moment when we had turned the corner that I wasn't so close to him, because I knew it was there. It's just the nano blade had came, but at that moment I just wasn't in front of Rein, and he sees that advantage. But then I did the same thing on his team because he wasn't in front of me, so it was like just a mismatch.
Okay. Okay, then carry on. I don't really have anything too big to comment about that, other than sometimes you get MTD'd.
Yeah. Supports clutch that out. Big lamp DLC. Oh,
yeah.
Didn't quite get to safety though.
It's a good shatter code that you guys are trading, so that's just probably a reset. Remember to always keep spamming even on your way out if you know you can get out safely. Or not safely, but I mean, like, if you know, I believe that everyone should, if you get good at this game, right, I should be able to tell you where you are on any map, drop you there, have you close your eyes, and tell you to walk to any point on any map, and you should be able to do it. Like,
that's insane.
Just because, no, I mean, Jayne, if you ask that of any player,
like, walking backwards, like, do you think that, how far do you think they could before the minor errors stack up? Like, you know, if you constantly have a visual reference, you should be able to back up through the entire map without hitting anything. But with your eyes closed, I'm not sure.
No, I genuinely believe that.
Wow. Okay.
You should be able to know these maps like the back of your hand. Like, you should just be able to move without really knowing the geometry because it's built into your brain. Like it's been forced into the wrinkles of your brain. You don't need to be like, oh, there's a box here, better jump over that box. You just jump over the box. You don't think about it.
So if we take this conversation and move it into kind of like a different version where we're talking about like fighting retreats versus active retreats.
Yeah,
right?
shoot.
So in this situation, right, the Zarya has chosen for an active retreat here. So every single character is going to have a slight different calculus about whether or not you're fighting retreat or active retreat. Now, the two main reasons that you're going to be doing an active retreat, which means just like turn tail and fucking run, advance confidently in the opposite direction, just run away, is basically one of two reasons. The first one comes from your movement speed. So all heroes in the game, except for two, have a 5 meter per second move speed. Forward. If you're moving back, you get a 10% penalty, or you're moving backwards at 4.5 meters per second. So you don't have the same move speed forward as you do backwards. You're 10% slower, just half a meter per second. It's one of the reasons why you can't always kite, or that Reinhardt seems to always just barely catch up to you because he is technically moving slightly faster than you. But that 10% extra move speed when you're actually running away from something is very rarely going to make the difference, especially if when you're actively retreating, you're not actually fighting back. So the opponent has no reason to stop chasing you, and they can just continue to chase you even around the corner because likely they've been bleeding your resources as you're running away, and you haven't been bleeding theirs. The second reason that you active retreat is head hitboxes, right? If you're playing a character where you basically need to run away and like your head is exposed, or you're fighting somebody who is going to shoot you in the head, at that point it's active retreat, but you turn around, you look at the ground, and you run. And that can make the difference between living or dying. But in the majority of situations, it's going to be a lot more important to be able to fight and still position, even if you're walking backwards around cover, through doorways, things of that variety, because you want that kind of, you want to like have your position basically as a hedge. Is that if the duel goes poorly for you, like if you miss one or two shots, right, you want to be backing up so that if you miss a couple more, you can just like disengage. Whereas if you hit a couple shots, then you want to be moving forward so that if the opponent takes cover and tries to disengage, you can force and you can push that engagement. So kind of you have this more like fluid positioning both forward and backwards as things start going in or against your favor. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, the difference between the two types of retreats.
Right. And so the two characters that are different and have a move speed of 5.5 are Genji and Tracer, who have 5.5 meters per second forward, just
right.
for chat.
And Overwatch 2 is going to come and throw everything out the window, so who knows? Reminder to shoot people, not the floor. I know you can't hear us in the past.
Oh no, this is TLC. TLC's with us.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh, sorry, I see what you're saying. My bad.
Okay, so can we pause and go back to when they use visor? I want to talk about the concept of counter pressure. Okay, so you pretty much have square here. You get it in like 1/10 of a second, right? The enemy is visoring. You know vaguely where it's coming from, but you assume that it's going to be like with the enemy team pushing around the corner for the most part.
Yeah.
In this situation, you have two options, which is peel off the soldier wherever he is specifically and play defensively, or try to just like fight fire with fire, right? Sorry, you go ahead, Jayne.
No, I was just everybody burns. That's all.
Yeah, everybody burns. Like it's like I like to think about counter pressure in terms of Mercy very often because it's the most open example of it. But like, if my tanks are dying and I'm on Mercy, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep damage boosting my DPS in that fight, because if I heal my tanks might not die. But if I damage boost my DPS, the enemy tanks are going to stop pushing because they're taking damage. And then my tanks are probably going to have more space to be healed by other things. And I think this is a very similar situation where if the enemy wants to push you with Visor, instead of just getting back and letting them compound that advantage, let them build that momentum, force you back, say, now you're in the open. Okay, now you're stuck in this small corner. Now the enemy team is surrounding you. You just match that with your square and you say, you're fighting here, I'm fighting here. Like, you just raise the bet. They commit a Visor, you commit a square. You know, and then eventually one of you is going to take that pot, but you've put in a bigger bet now. You're saying, all right, keep committing, buddy. When you apply counter pressure like this, you are taking what is maybe a lost fight in the next 10 seconds, and you're saying, we either win this fight now or we lose this fight now. And I'm not going to wait 10 seconds to find out. Is that something that makes sense, or did I just use too many gambling analogies?
No, it made sense. I guess for me, more so like in this specific moment, in this instance, like, are you saying that would have been the preferred option? Because inside of my head, it was I see the soldier, I know where he's at, I can LOS him from everybody else, and once it's gone, we just move forward. Like
that was also, I think, my idea, because I think Ana was the only one who died here. So my idea was like, I know he was on high ground on the right. So I thought that, I guess, like, obviously, my idea was that we were going to rotate right, and then, and maybe that's, so we could LOS that, and then, Mad Scientist was going to hold up a shield as we retreated, because I think 2 of us were down. So I think that was at least what my idea was. But again, I think that was how my mind like sort of went through that. And plus I just got window, I think. Like, I think Ana was already dead by the time I got window, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was pretty close. And I'm not saying that's the perfect play. Just like, I probably would have done it there. Just because, like, the enemy spawn is so close, right? Like, in a 4v4 situation, they're going to win that fight, usually, because they have spawns coming back. They have closer spawns, so they're going to be able to take a better fight. Like, in an ideal, like, not an ideal world, but, like, in, like, a real competitive environment, the enemy team would stagger out onto point properly and then come back with more people and just overwhelm you over time. So I think in these kind of scenarios, this is like a second point 2CP, where it's like, any advantage that you can make sure the enemy doesn't have, like denying any picks at all, are things you should be doing. Because saying, oh, I think it was just our Ana who died, that's a really important fucking hero. And I think in those situations, I like to commit to those situations personally. And like, these are options, right? I'm not saying do this 100% of the time, but just like recognize that a lot of the times you do need to fight this fire with fire, right? You need to say, all right, you guys are committing this, I'm going to do this. I'm not just going to like give up all of the area that we have control over. I'm not going to give up all of these sight lines. You guys are going to do X, I'm going to do Y. Food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
One of the last things that I'll add just on this point is that this fight was actually like really quite good. You know, even though we like, you know, you could have used the window when Gunther was talking about it, but you found another situation later on in the fight that was really quite valuable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was good. It was good later on. I agree.
Yeah. And then so the last thing, just like we talked about in the very first fight, right? After you'd done everything really quite well, you ended up in the middle here where you could have positioned yourself on the semi to again point and laugh at the chaos instead of being a part of it. Or on the high ground here, right? And then you being in the center, right? You're like, oh god, and then you get pinned. So that's one of those situations. Like, you do everything really quite well, but if you were doing those things from a safer location, you'd be able to be getting more value with less effort and less stress at the same time. Yeah. So make your job as easy as possible. And it's going to help you get a lot of value. Unfortunately, we are running out of time here, but did either of you have questions that you wanted to kind of focus in here, or things that you wanted more clarification or details on?
I have a question, but you can go first, TLC, if you have one.
No, I don't have one. Actually, sorry. I totally cut you off and I thought of it afterwards. You can go first and I'll ask mine.
All right. Earlier you were mentioning about the animation from like left to right where you're aiming on Ryan as far as hitting faster and then hitting slower. I just wanted to make sure that I have the actual thing down correctly. Can
Mhm.
you go over that again?
Yeah, so the hitting earlier and hitting later.
Yeah, as far as which side you are looking at
Yeah,
the
so
person
this is
on.
going to be, like, when you're just starting, right? This is going to be, your first swing on Reinhardt goes from right to left. And you can reset after every single hammer swing. Oh, wow. Every single hammer swing in order to make that consistent, right? Whereas if you hold down, it's right, left, right, left. So when I'm saying that you look to the left in order to hit earlier and you look to the right in order to hit later, it's about extending or shortening the swing, right? So if I'm looking here and the target's there, you can see that the swing happens quite late, whereas if I'm doing that, the swing happens quite early from the start. So you can either prolong the time it takes for the damage to actually be applied, which is very useful, right? If you're running at somebody and, you know, you're like, you know, whereas like this would miss, whereas like, in the little time it takes you to move a little bit farther forward, it would hit if you started at the left. You know, if you're just trying to get into range, you like, right? And you just barely scratch them. Whereas if you were walking forward, trying to swing early wouldn't make sense. And this is also going to be really useful for other times. Like if you're trying to do a fire strike cancel, right? So like I can stop the swing with a fire strike. So if you're going to be cutting your swing short anyway, and you want to be getting that damage in as quickly as possible, you may as well hit them with the very far, like, right edge of your screen in order to fire strike cancel, because there's no real point looking to the left, waiting for the hammer to cross your screen before the damage is done, and then fire striking in. So this has like a lot of benefits, right? So another one, like we were talking about the Zarya bubbling, is if a Zarya is going to bubble, you want to do that, or like, well, you want to like start swinging so that you have longer to cancel it with your shield if they do decide to bubble. And it's like, right, they bubble, you cancel it with the shield, instead of trying to let your swing. Because if you just tap and you swing, you can't cancel that. You cancel your swing with your shield to stop it, to make sure that your damage is not going to follow through, right? I mean, the other alternative is just like turn away so that the hammer swing never even reaches them, right? But like there's a lot of kind of manipulations, because I mean, even you can, right? You can hit people that are 180 degrees on either side of you, and this is going to be really useful for doing things like, you know, hitting BAP with lamps, right? If you need to hit, if you have a BAP lamp here and the Baptiste here, right? You want the first part of your swing to hit that lamp, and then you turn in the direction to hit the BAP with the later part of your swing, where if you tried to do it with the other way, it wouldn't work. So there's like a lot of really tiny mechanical things that you do on Rein in order to, you know, extend your hammer range. And also, just beyond hitting early or hitting late with the Reinhardt, because your hammer hitbox is a rectangle, right? If you tilt your camera a little bit, you actually have longer range because it's on a diagonal. You know, it's the hammer's Rein swing hitbox is not a semicircle. It's not like a circle around you where it has an equivalent radius. It has a longer radius at the edge of your screen, whereas like
it's essentially a rectangle that extends forward from you, kind of like a Genji blade.
Right. So hold on a second. When he respawns, you'll be able to see this. Missing. Hitting.
I see.
And I didn't move, right? So it also gives you a little bit of extra hammer range. Missing. Hitting. So that's another reason to turn your camera as Reinhardt.
Okay. Thanks. That makes sense.
TLC, did you have any questions?
I had one. So this is so I know in that match specifically that the Ana kept asking me to sit by her and like give her healing and heal her while she was like sit next to her. But in general, is that something that you should be doing? Is that should I be like close to the Ana? I know earlier you said I should be close to the McCree.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of a cop-out answer, but I don't think you should ever be playing on a BAP as a healer comp.
Yeah. So,
I think on a BAP is a poo-poo doo-doo caca healer comp.
Yeah, like that was going to be whatever, like I was going to preface my answer with the same thing, is that like you shouldn't be playing on a BAP in the first place, right? If you are, and you have a hero that, like McCree, right? You know, one of the reasons why Gunther was saying play with McCree as Baptiste is because you play in the same way. But Ana wants really long sightlines. She wants to be really far away from the fight, and she should be using hard cover and health packs with retreats and just her general positioning to stay alive. Where, you know, you want to be doing other things. Like, her nade, she can yeet it across the map. Your regenerative burst, if you want to use it on your team, you got to be within 10 meters. Like, you position fundamentally differently than an Ana. And, like, you can heal her from across the map as well with your right clicks. There's no real reason that you need to be next to her. So, no, I think that would be an error on the Ana's part. But yeah, actually trying to answer that in the game depends on how adamant the Ana player is about, like, heal me, right? If they've got it in their mind that that's how they want you to play and nothing will convince them otherwise, I mean, you got to make a decision whether you play suboptimally to make that person not tilt off the face of the fucking planet and flame you, and just doing what you think is the right thing. So
They were kind of tilted.
yeah, at that point you just ignore those people.
We did win that game, so it ended up being fine.
I mean, like, there's a lot of situations. I mean, I was even playing recently with there was another. I mean, it even happens in like top 500 games where there's a player who, like, I was watching a VOD back of another player who I was in a game with, who I knew was a streamer. I watched him back, and, like, they were tilted, and they were like, oh, if we had a BAP, we would have won by now. And when they had just been feeding the entire fucking VOD, it's like, all right, it's like, okay, man, right? It's just like. Sometimes, if the person is, like, legitimately trying to be beneficial or, like, help the team, right? But if they're using it as, like, an excuse for why they're feeding their fucking brains out, and it's like, it's not my fault I suck, it's your fault. It's like, ignore those people. They're not worth the energy. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate sometimes how toxic the game can get.
yeah. All right. Well, I unfortunately have a session that I have to hop onto, so I can't stay much longer. But yeah, Gunther, did you want to do wrap up?
Yeah. You guys good to move to wrap up? Any final questions or?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Cool. So I want to ask you guys, not as a final exam, but just as curious about the value that you get. What are you taking out of here today, as in lessons that you will impart and attempt to implement for the future?
For me, I guess, like, specific tech, like the Reinhardt tech, and then also I think the active retreat and kind of the more passive retreat was probably the most useful thing. I know sometimes, of course, it's like it is ranked, there's still randoms, and it's like even the most optimal thing is not gonna unfortunately work, and kind of like balancing that act, which does suck. But those I think were pretty useful.
Yeah. Cool.
For me, I know, like, I just need to use, like, my exo boots more, and especially for my grasp, I, like, use it more selfishly instead of more aggressively. I think that's the right word.
Yeah, I think you have the right idea about that. And then I'm just going to reminder again, because this is something that you can try to improve on forever, is just remember the idea of counter pressure, that sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. Implement that when you can, see what works for you and see what doesn't, because I think that is a concept that a lot of people don't get. And if you can start implementing that concept really, really well, you'll see a lot of success, a lot more than you think. Cool. Well, that's all I had to cover. I think that's all Jayne had to cover. If you guys have any questions, thoughts, concerns, if you wake up tomorrow and something doesn't make sense that made sense today, my DMs are open. James' DMs are open. To you guys, not to everyone in chat. This is what we do all day. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Nivara, when you watch this VOD in the future, I hope that some of the stuff we said helped you as well. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope it helped. And yeah.
You guys too.
Have a great day.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank
Have a
you.
good weekend.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.